Hello, and welcome to the Spec Shaman Podcast, a show that explores the world of building product manufacturers, architects, and engineers, sustainable design, and technology and trends. We engage in thought-provoking discussions with renowned experts, industry pioneers, and visionaries who are making a significant impact in the construction industry. Join us as we explore groundbreaking ideas, revolutionary concepts, and the latest advancements shaping the built environment. The Spec Shaman Podcast is hosted by Laura Elliott, the lead instructional designer at Ron Blank and Associates. Laura is a seasoned interviewer with a passion for uncovering the untold stories behind success. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Let's get started.
Hi, good morning. We are here with Rick Snelling of Armortex. Rick, we are so excited to have you today. How are you doing?
Laura, I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Well, we are excited to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. Could you tell me what inspired you to enter the AEC industry?
Well, I'd like to say it was a thought out plan on my part, but it really wasn't. I had a gentleman move into my neighborhood a couple of decades ago, and one thing led to another, and he was looking to actually hire his replacement for the position of Armortex, and that's how I got involved in the business. And it's an exciting industry because out of college, I worked in the AEC industry, then took a break, and then got back into it. And it's exciting to work with, all the different parties: the architects, the design team, the contractors, the subcontractors, and there's a lot of different entities that go into getting a building built or a school built, and in our particular case, adding that layer of security in the form of bullet-resistant windows and doors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the AEC industry especially, I know that there's been an increased focus on creating security in spaces that we didn't used to have to create security in. Is that something that excites you about doing what you do, being able to provide a layer of protection for people that need it?
Oh, absolutely. And obviously I guess the particular industry that is, or vertical market that's first and foremost on people's minds are schools, and then churches or places of worship. It's unfortunate, but we fill a niche and we fill a need there. And it is exciting and it's gratifying because we can design and build products that serve a very, very strong need, and that's protecting, people. And in the case of schools, obviously children.
Yes, as a mom, I'm very grateful for that layer of protection. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, if I might interject, my kids have aged out of school, but I didn't have to think about that when they were in school. And it's a different era right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely an evolving issue that we are, I think, as a society, very grateful for the layer of protection that, companies like yours creates. When you are talking about the origins of how you got started in your career, did you always want to work in the security space, or is there, how did you get started in your work?
Well, no, I don't think I had a grand plan about working in the security space. Again, approximately 21 years ago, I was in transition, and certainly God had a different plan for me. And neighbor moved in, unbeknownst to me, this gentleman ended up being my boss. But it is an industry that I thoroughly enjoy because manufacturing is just fun. You get to start with a clean sheet of paper and then build something. And the interaction with the owner, the architect, the contractor, that's an exciting piece. So it's no grand plan, just a very exciting industry to be in. And there's a lot of changes going on right now, and technology is going to impact how we build a window or a door moving forward.
That's exactly right. And when you see those changes, like I love how you said that, how we build a door or a window moving forward, is that something that your company sets out to innovate and help to stay ahead of the curve of kind of what we will be needing now and in the future?
Yeah, we are trying to be innovative and I guess be sensitive to the market demands. And I mean, you talk about technology right now. Artificial intelligence, AI, is being incorporated into the manufacturing space. We have not used AI yet. I think we certainly will. Another technology is sometimes referred to as 3D printing or additive manufacturing. We have certainly used AM to build some products, and we'll use more of that. And I mean, my gosh, on the residential side, houses are actually being printed, if you will, through additive manufacturing. So that's taking place right now. Not so much in the commercial space where we typically deal, but we'll see AI and additive manufacturing in our business more and more on a monthly basis with certainty.
Is there like a time efficiency that you find with those new technologies that really help the industry produce at the rate that we have a demand?
I haven't seen it yet, but I expect to see it. Just the research I've done with AI, and I mean, you can't open a paper or look at a social media feed without seeing something about AI these days. So, yeah, we'll certainly see some efficiencies. There's another technology that I think is going to lend itself well to the AEC industry, and that's just blockchain technology. How to take all these different parties I mentioned earlier, whether it's the design team, the owner, the contractor, the subcontractor, all these different entities, and kind of meld them together. And that's where blockchain technology, I think, will serve a great purpose.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot of movement that's happening in the industry, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's so exciting. When you talk about this, do you believe that that's kind of the area where we're ripe for transformation, or even maybe a disruption in what used to be the way that we did things?
Yeah, I think both. I mean, those are great terms: transformation and disruption. On one hand, people look at the manufacturing industry and think old school. In some ways it is, but with those, a couple of technologies I just mentioned, it is going to get disrupted. I mean, we're going to have to learn how to incorporate artificial intelligence, machine learning, things of those nature, some of which we're using within our within the manufacturing industry, and particularly within our little niche within that manufacturing industry. And it will be disruptive. I look at it in a positive sense, but it's going to change the way we do business. And it'll affect the people element, because we'll probably have technology doing some things that people used to. So that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, and I think that really leads nicely into the next question. I was just having a conversation this morning about how maybe we could dub our generation, our shared generational space, right? Because we have a couple of generations in the industry right now, as the troubleshooting generation.
Okay.
Where we have all of these new technologies that have been, in some ways you could say theoretical, or they're being built or designed for the intention of practice and application. And what we're seeing right now is the application and the practice, being implemented. And there are a lot of places where we have to troubleshoot that application, and I think that in the future we will start to see them be really effective, and really get put into place, but they have to go through that troubleshooning period of time.
Yes, and I mean, that is a great segue. I just read an application on social media this week, matter of fact, and occasionally we make mistakes. Things get built wrong, or we miscommunicate with the architect or with the owner, and we'll make a mistake. And so the process to troubleshoot in our industry, particularly if you're under some type of quality management system like we are, is you go through a series of asking a lot of questions, referred to as the 5 whys. You just keep digging and digging and digging, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how did we make that mistake? And AI in particular is being used right now. And, I wasn't even aware of it. It's being used in that query process of, why? Why do we make that mistake? And really surprised me. So that's one area, Laura, where I'm going to be, I'm going to do a little research myself and figure out, okay, how can we incorporate AI to help us, minimize the number of mistakes? And when we do make a mistake, how can we learn from it?
Yeah, that's definitely, I think it kind of reminds me of the early 90s or the later 90s, depending, when the internet was really becoming something that was collectively used. I think that there is definitely the people that were ahead of that and were using it kind of immediately, but there were, before it became mass, accepted. And AI, kind of this moment with AI that, nobody that's on the internet space is is immune to the conversations on it.
Sure.
And I think you're right. I think it's kind of like the Wild West, we're figuring out how it applies, where the challenges lie, how does it help perfect the process? Are there risks involved with using it? And so I think I think I might start some sort of troubleshooting generation newsletter or something to address some of these bigger issues of really applying the technology that we are getting introduced to.
Well, I bet you if we had this same conversation 6 months from now, it would be completely different.
Sure.
Particularly as it pertains to AI, because it is the Wild West, and who knows what's going to happen. But I think in 6 months' time, it would be a completely different conversation.
Yeah, and it's really just kind of having your eye on that and understanding that it's an evolving technology tool that I think we're going to learn more about pretty rapidly.
And we can't ignore
it. Not even if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's one of the challenges that the manufacturing process is facing? Are there any others that we're working to overcome?
I do think it's one of the challenges, related to people, particularly a younger generation. You've got to keep people engaged, and technology is a great way to do that. And so, I see our company in particular adopting, whether it's AI or more additive manufacturing, what have you, but as a way to troubleshoot, a way to build a better product, and a way to attract and retain talent. Because it's a lot of this is just it's so interesting, it's so new, it's going to be fun to work with, and it'll be challenging to work with. But I look at it as a talent attracting and retention tool. Now that may have gotten a little bit off the question you asked.
No, you're good.
It will be, without a doubt. So we can't ignore it. We got to embrace it. We got to understand it and figure out where it's going.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. When you think about what it can achieve, does it come have you actually applied it, or at this point are you looking at just the research around it and kind of creating how it could be used for your process?
Yes, it's definitely the latter. We're just doing research, trying to understand how it will impact our business, both on the technology side and the people side. So, I say 6 months from now, if we had another conversation, a month from now could be a lot.
Sure.
Yeah. So yes, I'm in the research stage, and we're trying to figure out, how we can use this technology to help our business, help our customers.
So when we're talking about things that are tried and true, Are there any notable projects or case studies that you'd like to share about your products that you know have been successful?
Well, yeah, we've had a lot of successful projects.
I bet.
Fortunately, we've had a lot of successful projects, but I mean, we've had fun projects like working on Amazon headquarters and several years ago, Facebook headquarters before it was called that. Yeah, I mean, and so we've put our products into some fun projects, the U.S. Capitol, for instance.
Oh, wow.
But we have no examples yet of where we've incorporated some of these new technologies into our projects, but we will. It's just, that time is coming. But yeah, it's fun to do, to get involved in some high profile projects where, you can name drop, right? Amazon or Facebook or the U.S. Capitol.
That's always great.
yeah, well, it is. And sometimes, since we are in the security business, we don't really know where our products end up being installed by design,
right.
On a need to know basis. And we ship that door or window or whatever we're building to a general contractor's office, and then they install it. And, it's that knowledge is not shared with us.
Yeah. So it's creating a product that can apply, to the places that need it without, disrupting the security level
Sure.
that the demand.
Absolutely. And, occasionally we get involved in residential projects. And so I guess the security there is even more intense. And we may ship a bulletproof door to an address somewhere in the U.S. or outside this country for that matter. And that's all we know.
Yeah, I bet. Have you seen an increase in residential applications of your projects or products?
We have, yes. Our products are designed, as I mentioned, for commercial use. So sometimes it's hard to make that leap from, making a commercial grade window fit in somebody's home. But yeah, there are people out there that want to really fortify their house more so than just maybe a safe room. And we've seen that application over the years where someone will dedicate their master bedroom closet, for instance, to be the safe room. But we're involved in a couple of projects right now where their entire home is fortified.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as we build these products for that particular project, it makes me think, wow, what a way to live.
Right. Well, I definitely understand there are vocations where that is a consideration, kind of a hazard of the job, that you would need that level of protection even in your own home. So it's great that they have you to turn to create that level of protection that they're looking for.
Yes.
When you're thinking about the young professionals, I know we kind of talked about them and maybe even using AI as a retention tool. Do you have any advice, though, for the young professionals who are entering the construction and design industries?
I think the advice I would offer to a young person now is get a proper education. And that may be formal in the way of, they go to architecture school or they go study construction science or construction management, or it may be informal, internships, just on the job experience, but, get the proper education. Could be a technical school, great education. We employ welders, and these are highly skilled people. There's not really a 4-year degree to be a welder, but there's some fantastic trade and technical schools where they can get the proper knowledge and then put it to use. But yeah, get the education. If you have an opportunity to do an internship, work for a general contractor, work for an engineering firm or architecture firm, and then you can use that experience hands-on in the field or for a manufacturing or for a manufacturer or a general contractor. But there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of programs, both at the the 4-year college level as well as trade and technical schools that are fantastic. And we've taken advantage of some of those graduates here in the San Antonio area and been very pleased with the results. And it's exciting to see, 20, 21, 22-year-olds that want to work in the manufacturing industry. And then which in turn leads to the AEC industry. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, I love the connection between the two kinds of life paths, right? There are the collegiate learners, and there's the trade school learners, and they all kind of coalesce in this industry together. And I think that you're right. I think the training opportunities are really vital and important, regardless of the path that you choose. It's funny that you mentioned welding. I don't know if you know, my husband is a RIG welder.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's also a welding instructor. So,
I'm amazed at some of the welders we have and how competent they are. I mean, it's amazing. And that's a profession that somebody that casually thinks about it or looks at someone welding and doesn't give a second thought to the skill involved.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned, because my background is very academic, and I went the college route, but I think that the trades are also a really beautiful place for learning. And it's definitely something that I champion, is making sure that trade education is given the same lighting almost as the collegiate path, because there's such value in both methods of learning.
I agree 100%. And there's a need for both.
Absolutely. You can't design anything if you don't have anybody to build it.
Yes, you're right.
It's such a vital.
It all works together.
It does. We can't automate everything. From a marketing standpoint, security and safety really kind of sells itself. But is there something that you seek out to promote your products to design professionals that you find is effective?
From a marketing standpoint? Yeah. When I think about, how we promote our products, we certainly were involved in trade shows.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a number of national trade shows that we attend each year and participate in. Just from a more of a local, I was going to say a local level, but really on the national level as well, we get involved in educational programs for the design community. Every state has their own requirement about continuing education credits. So we participate both in live CE events as well as online. And that's a great way to not only market our company, but get feedback from the design community, because we're talking about, security in our products. And we usually have about an hour where we have a captive audience. And it's particularly in a live format, it's a great give and take. And, we're talking about our products, but then again, we get some great feedback from the people in the field designing homes and churches and buildings and courthouses. And so it's a great two-way interaction.
All right. So it's like a great forum for those conversations.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And we can take some of that information back to our design team and make the changes that we need to make.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, a real bonus of the conversation, right? Is to have that feedback and really figure out how to make a product work for the people that are putting them into place. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Is there challenges that you face in getting your product specified, and how do you overcome them? Is that forum a good spot for that, or is there anything else that you use to strategize on the specification side?
Well, there is a challenge. I mean, we have competitors, so we're competing for what I would call mind share. If you think about the AEC process, an owner is going to contact a design professional. They're going to contact an architect, and they want to build whatever, or a new office building, for instance, and Well, let's take a courthouse. That might be a better example. And part of that courthouse project is a security element. They need some bullet resistant windows or doors. And so our challenge is to, get in front of that architecture firm, educate them on what we're doing. And if we do a good job on educating them, hopefully we're built into the specifications. I mean, honestly, that's the goal, is to either be based as a design for this particular courthouse is our example, or at least an approved supplier. So when that project hits the street, goes to bid, if we've done our job correctly, then the contractor sees Armortex in the specs as one of the approved suppliers, and we get an opportunity to participate in that project. But it's tough. I mean, architects are busy, and
that's true.
Yeah, they're busy. So it's a matter of getting in front of them, whether it's physical or some type of webinar, and demonstrating what we have to offer.
Yeah, I know that those conversations are really vital, making those connections. When we look at how sustainability is shaping those conversations, is there anything that you do to work towards that as a point of focus?
Well, that is that's an area of development for Armortex. If someone's designing a project and they're trying to achieve, LEED Platinum, we can't help them that much. Our products, unfortunately, right now, our products really don't offer a lot in the way of LEED credits. So it really is an area of development. And I mean, we're working with steel and aluminum and some composites, and just not a lot of LEED credits right now. So we're cognizant of that, and we've got to address it. But it is what it is right now.
Well, there are some challenges too, because with what the protection that you're trying to create sometimes requires a specific material, and it's almost like waiting for the the creation of a new metal, essentially.
Well, that's true, and you think about it, Laura. At the end of the day, if a project requires a bulletproof door, I mean that is the ultimate criteria. They want a door or a window that's going to protect someone from gunfire. And if it doesn't have a LEED credit associated with it, well, that's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it's going to fill the primary need, and that's protection, security.
And sometimes that's the most important thing,
Well, it is. Absolutely.
Especially in those situations where you're talking about schools and courthouses and things like that. But I think that the industry I'm seeing is that it's evolving, and everyone's understanding that sustainability is here to stay. And I think that those materials will become more easily accessible, I think, in these spaces. And like I said, we're the troubleshooting generation, so we're trying to figure it out. Is there like an industry secret or a personal philosophy that you kind of orient your work around? Is there something that really motivates you or helps you stay connected to what you're doing daily?
Well, I think from just a personal philosophy or way I like to do business standpoint is be responsive. Because if a project crops up and the owner says, "Hey, I got to have some bulletproof doors and windows," a lot of times an architect or a general contractor won't have a clue about those products because they're different. And so what I try to adhere to and preach to my people is be responsive. You're going to get questions, follow up, provide the information you can. If you don't know the answer, go find it, but be responsive. And it really, I think, really becomes important as the project progresses. And if you're going to have hiccups, you're going to have things that come up in the project that no one anticipated. And if it's bad news that you have to deliver to the architect, to the contractor, to the owner, do it quickly. And that way they can make arrangements. If you're going to miss a ship date because we can't get the the bullet resistant glass in will then convey that information to the particular, the appropriate parties, but be responsive and follow up. And if you've got some, bad news to deliver, do it sooner rather than later. And I think people really appreciate that because at least they're informed and they can respond accordingly.
Right. Allow people to make the adjustments based on the information as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, nobody likes to be notified at the 11th hour that something's not going to happen.
Right. That's an emotional moment.
Well, yes, it is. And there's no reason for it to be emotional if it's handled properly up front.
Right.
Because, you think about a project, you think about all the planning that goes into it. There's timelines that have to be met. There's schedules that have to be met.
Yeah.
And we're one small piece in that overall project timeline. And if something happens with our product and it can't be delivered, then our customers need to know sooner rather than later.
Yeah, especially because of the level of importance what your products, provide.
You bet.
Security is so important to that. When we're looking at the changes across the building industries, is there one thing that you could isolate that's impacting how you conduct your business?
I don't think one thing. We've been talking about technology, and of course that term is extremely broad. I do think about, I guess the progression. 10 or 15 years ago, there was a new technology, if you will, referred to as BIM, or Building Information Modeling. And it's amazing. And now I think most architecture firms require that they can access construction documents and drawings through the BIM method. It provides so much information to an architect as they're constructing or putting together project documents. So that one hit again 10 or 15 years ago, but we've talked about AI, we've talked about blockchain, social media, certainly. You gotta address all of those. I'm not sure if one area is more important than any other. But they're all impacting what we do as a manufacturer into the AEC industry. They're impacting our business on a weekly basis. It's allows us to communicate better, I think. Certainly with the design community and the construction community.
Yeah, and I think that there's like an intentional public facing approach you can use too in the social media spaces, especially. But yeah, comprehensively, all of those things together really kind of indicate an enormous shift in how we are doing business today versus the way that we used to do them.
Well, yes, and you mentioned, 20 years ago or so, the internet. Well, we weren't doing webinars 20 years ago.
That's right.
We probably weren't doing podcasts 20 years ago.
No, we weren't. We were
right. So, there you go. That's a great example. And there's the progression right there.
Yeah. And I think that's like one of the things that I was the most drawn to about the podcast idea is that, I kind of live in this weird little space where I grew up in an analog world and watched it digitize, I think. And podcasts really capture something that I think that we used to have in the long form conversation of our daily lives prior to, this technological leap that we went through. And I think that's why it's so successful across the board. People are really drawn to podcasts because of the kind of conversation that occurs there. It's less snippets.
Sure, it's educational. It's typically very timely, and yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's the beauty of the format. What do you do in your spare time when you're not protecting the lives of school children and public officials?
Well, for the last 8 months, I've been trying to train my Labrador Retriever.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, we've got a new puppy. He's now 13 months old.
Oh, wow.
His name is Gunther, and he is full of life. As the veterinarian recently said, he's a wild Indian.
Oh, man.
So, yes, my wife and I have our hands full with that.
Mhm.
And then in the last couple of months, just trying to survive the Texas heat.
All right, yeah. The seventh
Oh my
of hell
gosh.
got opened up on us here in
Yes,
Texas.
yes.
We
So
broke
yeah.
we broke
I-
the 29-day record though yesterday.
Oh, did we really? Okay. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. I am not surprised.
Well, it finally dropped down to the 90s after I think
Well,
29 days of consecutive 100-degree heat. So
yeah, and 5 weeks from tomorrow, I'll be in Colorado, which I'm looking forward to. So,
lovely. Lovely.
yeah, some cooler weather.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to maybe a trip somewhere snowy
Oh, God.
at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's been a long summer, and we have a few more weeks to go.
I know it's still just mid-August. Well, I really enjoyed our conversation today, Rick. Do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, I've enjoyed our conversation as well, Laura. Not really. I would just, as maybe a plug for this industry, both the AEC industry as well as the manufacturing space that we dwell in. It's an exciting place to be.
I agree.
And, again, I mean, if we did this again in 6 months, I think we'd have a totally different conversation because so much is going on. And, manufacturing, I think, straddles two worlds. Kind of the old school world where we're just, we got welders out there, welding and cutting metal and things like that. But then the area we live in right now with the technology, we really are kind of riding the fence, and technology is going to have a big impact on our industry. So
I agree.
It's a good place to be right now.
I think so too. Maybe we can come back for a recap episode.
That would be enjoyable.
Yes, sir. I agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and being our guest. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Spec Shaman Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our show and leave us a review. The Spec Shaman Podcast is produced by Laura Elliott and Brad Blank. A huge thank you to our guests who made this show possible. Building product manufacturers who want to increase their specification opportunities, please visit specshaman.com or ronblank.com. Thanks all for this episode, folks. See you next time.